The one god strode out, a puppet trailing severed strings from the conflagration. Another city destroyed, another people cut down in their tens of thousands. Who among us, witnessing his emergence, could not but conclude that madness had taken him? For all the power of creation he possessed, he delivered naught but death and destruction. Stealer of life, slayer and reaper. In his eyes, where moments earlier there had been the blaze of unreasoning rage, now there was calm. He knew nothing. He could not resolve the blood on his own hands. He begged us for answers, but we could say nothing. We could weep. We could laugh. We chose laughter. Hello and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam, aka Ambar, and today I'll be doing a spoiler-free review of Steven Erikson's Reaper's Gale. Reaper's Gale is a 2007 novel by Steven Erikson and Book 7 in Malazan, Book of the Fallen. It is divided into 4 books, unsurprisingly at this point, and each kind of work as a standalone novel in of themselves. But I think they work better combined here, not just because of publishing, habits as of right now, but something I'll get into later. The first title is titled The Emperor in Gold, which actually kind of seems like a one-up of The King in Yellow. If you know what that is, you should look it up if you don't. But the prologue gives us Kilmandaros, Scabandari, Male, and Gothos, as well as Anomander, and follows events that lead to the throne of Shadow being empty. In the All Dawn, Atri Preda Bivat, with a couple hundred soldiers of the Tattered Banner army, find many abandoned war canoes and wonder how and where the occupants have vanished to. This is during King Discanar's reign as well. After the Edur conquest in the same place, a lone rider hides behind a crimson mask and observes dead soldiers who have been mutilated by wolves, and in an odd fashion as well. Even with great knowledge of uniforms, he does not recognize the twin wolf heads that make the sigil. This plus chapter 1 shows us this novel is firmly set in Lethras, like Midnight Tides. The Lethri patriotists, the secret police of Lether, are introduced with one Karos and Vicdad. They detain some considered disloyal to the states, which are executed in the drownings. Rautos Hivanar is concerned with an artifact found in pieces that seems to do with flooding. He is bored with managing his family's finances and finds work tedious. After studying much of history, he tells his servant to prepare to travel to Dreen, as he doesn't trust the new factor of the city there. And it's Letet Anik, I think. In the All Dawn, Bivat witnesses Blue Rose Lancers loot, massacred all. We get very much a manifest destiny, greed, and vibe from this. It's very expansionist. And then we get a man covered in black, and he blocks this path and seeks to return to Leathery that belonged to him. This figure is revealed to be a very white skin with red eyes, none other than Silchaus Ruin. And then Udina, Serenpetic, Fierce Sangar, and Kettle show up in this part too. Then there's Tanel Yarvanar. He contemplates rapes as he stares at his victim. Tehol and Bug still have a master and servant relationship, even though Bug is the elder god Male, as we found out in Midnight Tides. Their sections, which concludes chapter 1 actually in this part, I thought was, thank goodness, because it gives the chapter some levity, even in the face of very serious business. And it really lightens the mood, because the mood is so dark here. We do get some of the Blue Rose as well, even some ruins in the mountains, the same name. There are more new characters, as always, and of course the new factions, part of the greater ones of Lethery and Edur, which are, sort of joined in a union, right? The Lethery are ruled by an Edur emperor, and Rulad, of course. There's Brol, Bivats, and Red Mask scenes along with those traveling in the mountains is, I thought, immediately interesting and quite a change of pace from the Bone Hunters, which I thought started out kind of slow. Nisal, the first concubine, gives us a look at the pity of a person that Rulad is. He is haunted and cursed, and you want to hate him but cannot, as a youth tries to be good and an honorable ruler, but he's just mad, really. So when we catch up to Shura, she is still she is still an undead pirate, but Iron Bars and the rest of the Crimson Guard are no longer with her. She apparently dropped the avowed off at Jakarutu. Her ship, the Undying Gratitude, and her crew have spotted a listing Adur ship at the start. And while this is more of a sequel to Midnight Tides, The Bone Hunters was also a sequel in part to Midnight Tides, and so Reaper's Gale is also in part a sequel to the Bone Hunters. We have some characters from the other books present. In fact, this is the big book where the Lether Empire and the Malazan Empire really meet, as they kind of vaguely met in the Bone Hunters at the very end. They're really going to come head to head in this one. But in particular, if you get to part 2, we have like Akarium and Karsa and Samar Dev, for example. I found the first part set up the new stuff in Letheras, which wasn't as gripping as the first part of the Bone Hunters. Even though it starts off faster, it just wasn't as gripping. Ublala Pung, I think, is one of my favorite characters in this one, and I like it. He's all brawn, rather, no brain. And then Onrak has an interesting arc too. There's a few ghosts as well that have some arcs. Karsa is probably still my favorite. There's lots of gallows humor as always, maybe more potty humor than typical. Epic ending as always. I wish it was a little faster in getting there though. Maybe the grandest conversion so far. I mean, it's pretty epic, right? But even then, while it's triumphant and you feel for the characters, I think the deconstruction of the epic fantasy genre is almost too unwieldy, at least in the way Erikson's trying to do it. There are so many characters, and the fact of the matter is I don't care for many of them. Even though their characterization is fine, I just don't spend enough time with many of them, right? And so a lot of them kind of get lost in like this terribly gray world, right? His characterization, it's great, but it's definitely dour. I've seen more cheer in a graveyard at times, right? So maybe I just wasn't in the proper mood, and I still really enjoyed it, right? But I feel this felt kind of more like traditional, the bad traditions that sometimes epic fantasy is associated with. You get a ton of build-up for a big payoff, and I've never really been a big fan of that method, especially when the build-up takes so stinking long. This is a long book. I think it's longer than all the other ones so far. And I don't think the other books suffer so much from this one, right? The Bone Hunters, I think, is fantastic, basically from page 1 to the last. So feel free to disagree, of course. I know this is some people's favorite. Other people feel similar to me. But it's just interesting because, like, I think a book should be interesting from page 1 and should not ever really not be interesting. And I think there's a lot here I just don't care about because there's a lot of characters that have crappy things going on with them. And of all the things that, you know, that are really cool happening in these books, I very rarely feel emotional in them, considering how long they are, right? But when I've read like a good sword and sorcery story, I might feel emotional in 10 pages, and it's more effective and more entertaining than something that's somehow this huge. So I'm still a big fan of Malazan. I'm going to continue, obviously, but this might be my least favorite one. Even more so than like Midnight Tides, because I think this has some problems that Midnight Tides doesn't have. Not Midnight Tides, sorry. Memories of Ice, which has been my least favorite before this. Because Memories of Ice, I think, is pacing still better than this. So there's just so much going on here, and I realize that is a point of the series in and of itself. But it doesn't help with my interests sometimes. That being said, I still really like it. And I'm looking forward to more, and I'm happy I've gotten as far as I have in the series anyways, and like I said, I'm really enjoying it. It's just funny that it's a little funny to me that like I would not enjoy book 7 for some reason, because that doesn't seem to be, I don't know. I think the problem here is epic fantasy itself. Maybe he shouldn't have done it.